Good afternoon. Welcome to our Monday musings. I'm just inviting Erin in. I hope you're having a beautiful Monday afternoon. Here she is.
Hello.
Yay. Hi. You're at
Can
the
you hear
beach.
me?
I can, yes.
Yeah, I'm in my car because my plumber is dredging my drains and we don't want that noise in the background. So yeah, driven down the beach, so hopefully my internet and sound will be okay.
It sounds perfect. So today I'm loving these afternoon live chats, and we kind of just decide what we're going to chat about at the last minute. It just kind of drops in at the last minute.
Hey,
So today, the 20th of March, is the traditional, actually it's tomorrow, the 21st, is the traditional date, and this year the actual date of the autumn equinox and Mabon here in the Southern Hemisphere. In the Northern Hemisphere, it's the spring equinox and
Ostara.
Ostara, yes, which is Easter, right? Traditionally, Easter is at this time of year in the Northern Hemisphere, and it's because it coincides with these Sabbats. And it's also the beginning of the astrological new year, which is actually today, the 20th. And we've got a new moon on Wednesday. So like all the things are happening, all of these new beginnings, deaths and rebirths, because we are cyclic beings, and so we go in these cycles and we're always moving through change and transitions and transformation. And we always like to talk about, particularly in our circles, how a lot of the traditional celebrations and festivals, the ones that were adopted from Christianity, like our Christmas and our Easters, are actually originally rooted in these pagan celebrations, which are all based on our earth cycles and our earth seasons. So these Sabbats have to do with the positioning of the sun, which changes throughout the year as it moves. And that's what I'm trying to say. As it moves, or do we move? We move around the sun. The sun moves around.
All of it.
All of it. Right? So it all moves, and so we're always constantly changing. We're always in a state of transformation and transition and change. That's like the only definite that we have as humans, is this constant ebbing and flowing, and we're moving kind of outward and inward, outward and inward. And so it's interesting when we celebrate Halloween, when we do here in the Southern Hemisphere, when we celebrate Easter, when we celebrate Christmas at the times that we do, because it's all sorts of backwards, completely switched. And so we're kind of drawing on these Northern Hemisphere traditions that really are based on the earth cycles of the North. So in the Northern Hemisphere, they're celebrating, or they're moving into Ostara, which is traditionally Easter, and which is an outward celebration. So it's all about spring and rebirth, hence the eggs and the bunnies and new life and all these sorts of things. But we here in the Southern Hemisphere are moving inward. So we can't be outward all of the time. We need these inward inner journeys that we go through as our cycle moves inward. And so we are on the threshold and the cusp of winter, and we're transitioning from that outward energy of summer into the inward journey of winter. And it's also about celebrating harvest before winter. So that's where we're at the moment. And so we thought we would talk a little bit about that, and we would talk about integration as part of that, and integration, the vital importance of integration, as innately cyclic beings that we are, always transforming and changing, and in constant states of change, because change is our nature. That's how we thrive. So yeah, that's what we thought we would talk about today. What do you think, Erin? I'm just going to pass over to you now that I've had that big spiel.
Yeah, beautiful. Well done on nailing all that down. So, like, in regards to the integration side of things, so Catherine had when she put out a question box of what people were interested in hearing more about, she got a response of someone wanting to, I guess, dive deeper into this whole idea of integration and embodiment, and like what is integration and how do we make integration happen. And so we thought that would be a great one to discuss today, tying it in with where we are here in the Southern Hemisphere, which is, as Catherine has just explained, autumn equinox. Because, like, in a nutshell, the integration and the processing and the embodiment happens in the down, like in the rest, in the quiet, in the still. And that's actually what we've been programmed in our modern society to avoid. We all associate rest with laziness. I mean, I still struggle with that, and I've been working on it literally for years, because, you know, in our industrialized, capitalist, patriarchal society, they want us continually contributing, and keeping the cogs of the machine turning and outsourcing, basically. So if we skip that integration and embodiment phase, then we continue outsourcing to the powers that be, which is exactly where and how they want us. So as we're like spiraling in at this seasonal time for us, now is a really potent time to harness the energy of where we are at, with, you know, the wheel of the year, and start to spiral inwards ourselves. And so I just want to bring it back as well to, so the wheel of the year with the Sabbats, but then that aligns with the moon cycles, our life cycles, our menstrual cycle. So where we're at the moment is in alignment with, if we look at our life cycle, the like Marga or matriarch era of our lives. So like the point of about like 50-ish to 75 years old, I guess. It aligns with the waning moon. So the moon is going from full and waning down to dark. And with our luteal phase of our menstrual cycle, which is all about slowing down, going within, really just kind of sitting in that like digestion processing phase, which again we all kind of really shy away from, because this is also when most of the uncomfortable stuff will come up. So, you know, like that beginning of the cycle from like birth, and then we go through our spring phase, our summer, you know, full moon, full bloom. We're absorbing all of the things. We're like in party mode, and then it clicks over and we start to go down, and that can feel really uncomfortable. And that's where the true magic happens. And that's where we do let things like compost and alchemize essentially into, it's when we move things from like our head to our heart, from like the mental into the body. It's when we really fully get the things, right? And I was thinking earlier that, you know, most, like so much of this stuff actually happens when we're sleeping, right? And like none of us sleep enough, like at all. And it happens when we're in deep rest, in that state where we're not you know, running through our because people say, you know, as well, like, oh, I'm gonna rest, and so they'll sit on the couch and put like a horror movie on Netflix, and like that's not it. That's not it, because that's more just numbing out or like avoiding, which is great and fine and totally has its place too, but that's not proper rest. Like our nervous system is still well activated. Like our mammalian brains can't figure out that we're not like in the horror movie about to have our heads chopped off, so we're like, but yeah,
it's definitely integration, right? It's like, it's definitely not integrating everything, it's just like separating, like disconnecting.
yeah,
and
exactly.
everyone's so tired at the moment. Like everyone is, I don't know, I've been so tired lately, and I've had so many people say to me they're so tired. And I think you were saying that you woke up late and your kids woke up like really late this morning. Even my son, who's always up at 5 a.m. was like, I slept until 6:30, which is like a miracle. And it's because our bodies are adapting to, because we are animals, like we are nature, right? Like we are nature. So no matter what we do with our artificial lighting and, you know, with our TVs and trying to separate ourselves from nature, we can't help but be nature, and we can feel exactly what we need and when we need it. And with it's interesting, you were saying about the luteal phase, and it's like the Marga / matriarch phase, and autumn, and all of those moments are really shamed. Like they're really put in the shadows. Like the older women are really pushed to the side. A lot of people have a lot of negative things to say about the luteal phase, and, you know, PMS, and you know, that's where like crazy women come out, hysteria and all those things. There's a lot of shame in this time, and it's all tied up in this shame around, because you said decay. This is the time of harvest and decay, because we as a culture are so we're just really trying to separate ourselves from our need to actually decay, and separate ourselves from death, and separate ourselves from grief, and separate ourselves from discomfort. But as cyclic beings, it's really a completely natural and innate part of our living. It's part of our life. It's how we live, is to actually move through these cycles and embrace the decay and the death and the rebirth in order to rebirth. Like we can't rebirth, we can't alchemize, we can't transmute, we can't create from a place of our unique medicine if we don't have that time to integrate. And it's all about trying to run away from and distract from and separate ourselves from death and discomfort and grief, and, you know, sitting in that decay, which we sometimes have to do. And in the, you know, the being lazy, all the shame around it, is something we really have to do. And so what happens is, underneath that, we get really angry, and the truth comes out as discomfort and anger and potentially pain and sometimes suffering, because there's this constant resistance and internal struggle between who we really are and who we're told we should be. And so it just creates more and more and more struggle. And then it comes out physically as painful periods, you know, menstrual disorders, physical pain and discomfort, and, you know, all the menopause issues that women have, and all these things that's going on in the shadows that no one wants to talk about, because we're not embracing the fact that we are nature, we are cyclic beings, we are earthly cyclic beings that need to move through that build up, and that the big energy, the outward active energy, and equal integration. And integration is space, it's rest, it's darkness. And like, seeds do not grow in the light, they grow in the darkness. So when we're talking about integration, it really is very interconnected with when we talk a lot about embodiment. We did a live on what is embodiment. Integration and embodiment are very interconnected, and it's about allowing yourself that space, and time to take everything in from the big energy, from the external, and then like let it sit in the cauldron to kind of move around and mix around with your own inner anchoring. You know, what is your inner medicine to be alchemized in what is actually true for you. And I think that's what it comes back to, is like finding the truth, but it takes a long time. Well, not necessarily a long time, but it takes time and space, and it takes quiet and rest. And like you said, not just numbing out, it's actually like sleeping and intentional integration and separation. So an anchoring from the internal as opposed to an anchoring from the external.
Totally. And I think actually, you talked about like that inner struggle, like the more and the longer we fight the going down, the longer the process takes. Like if we just listen to our bodies, because first off, the first thing we do when we start to feel ourselves getting a little bit more tired, you know, we find ourselves randomly sleeping in, the first place that we go to isn't, oh, that's like my amazing animal body being deeply in tune and connected with the seasons. We pathologize it. We say, what's wrong with me? Am I getting sick? Like, oh, I'm so tired. Why am I so tired? This isn't normal. It's so normal. And the quicker that we can clue on to that and go there and go into the rest and go into the like deep slowing down and deep nourishing, the whole process is expedited, and the integration phase, like it happens so much quicker, right? But it's because we really resist it and we fight it because that's what we've been programmed to do. So it's really such a huge unwinding of that pattern, which ties in with like unwinding of our nervous system, because we're so familiar, especially I mean, it's everybody, but I kind of want to say especially mothers of young children, because we are like constantly on, go. Like we're available for these energetic beings like 24/7, literally. So in that intense phase, our bodies really, you know, our new kind of homeostasis is go, always on. So then when we hit that point where we do really need to super slow down and deeply rest, it can feel so foreign to our system that like that's a whole other thing to try and navigate and recalibrate to. And like, you know, that's like that's one of my personal practices, like my life's work is recalibrating to a more healthy baseline of homeostasis that everything in our modern world is trying to inhibit us from reaching.
And starts with like rest and starts with our cycles, right? Like it really starts with not pathologizing straight away, and same with the periods, you know, with our menstrual cycle, and going straight to like, why am I so tired, and why can't I push through, and why can't I, you know, meet all these goals, and you know, going the fact that we are starting to see beautiful Jane Hardwick Collins has started to support these menstrual leave days, because we need to actually honor the fact that our brains are completely different and in a different state of alertness, and we can't maintain the same level of energy. We actually need more sleep and more rest at different times of our cycle, whether it be our monthly cycle or our seasonal, you know, cycles. And we just think, well, if I just push a bit harder. But the thing is, like you said, with having small kids, like it takes so long to, like the bank is so empty that it takes so long to actually build that up again. It's like, oh, I get one sleep in. Well, that's not going to actually fill up all the deficit from all the years and years of lack of sleep and lack of rest. And so it is really, really uncomfortable. And I definitely find myself like, oh, I'm just going to go for a walk and move my body, which is really great. And I do need that. And sometimes I just need to go to bed. But I don't value that in the same way as like, oh, I should go for a walk. I should do this other thing. Do. But it's the being where, which is an equal half. Like we need both. We need the half doing and half being, but it's the being that we don't value. But that's where the magic happens. That's where the integration happens. That's where embodiment happens. And one of the big things that we talk a lot about, and my big passion around creating embodied space holder, is how glorified we are, or we glorify each other about all this external like qualifications and training and doing like achievements and awards and all this external, like the more you do, the more validated. And of course, as humans, innately, we want to feel like we belong. We want to feel like we're loved and accepted. And what's happened is that our feeling of belonging and acceptance has been tied up in how much we can do and how much we can do for others rather than how much we can actually rest. Did I just flick off? It seems to be loading. I'm just going to keep talking anyway, and hopefully it's going to flick back on. Can anyone hear me, or have I does anyone want to tell me in the comments? Have I just frozen? Oh, Erin has, I reckon she just must have gone flat or something. Don't know. So it mustn't have been me. I'm just going to invite her back in. So I'll just keep ranting then. Here we go. No. I know I'm live. I'm just trying to get her back on. Okay, cool. You can hear me. Yeah, Erin's gone. Okay, well, hopefully she'll come back in a second. Maybe her phone went flat because she was down at the beach. We'll see if she comes back, but I'll just keep talking. Yeah, this idea of like externally being glorified for all of our action and what we can achieve and what we can do for others, but not actually acknowledging that in order to fully serve in our medicine, our unique medicine as unique individual, authentic individuals, we actually have to integrate everything externally and turn it within ourselves, come from an internal place to really make it our own. And I was saying to Erin before, one of the things that I would just really hate so much. I'm just trying to see if I can get her back on. One of the things, she's back. One of the things that I would really, really feel very uncomfortable about, almost kind of feel like a failure in as a teacher and someone who has a lot of students. I just kept talking, so I'm just going to keep talking. Is if my students all came out as carbon copies of me. Like that would just, I think that would just devastate me. Like that would just not be okay for me. And we see it a lot where a lot of students come out of training, or you can see just based on the way that they write or the way that they, their images and their imagery in their work, you can tell who their teacher is. And for me, that's the opposite of what I want to do and be as someone who holds space for others. I want to hold space for people in their own process, to integrate in their own way, to come to a place of embodiment that's so authentic to them and their truth and their medicine, and to put their service out into the world in a way that's so unique and authentic to them. And I talk about it from like a frequency perspective. And if you think about like music and the artists that you listen to, you can tell, like you don't have to know a song, You can just hear someone's voice. Like you can hear Florence Welch or what's his name, Eddie Vedder, or Chris Cornell. Like you can hear their voice. They can sing anything, and you know it's them. And that's really what we want to see, and that's what comes from a place of integration and true embodiment. Your truth is transmuted through your unique and authentic frequency, as opposed to just taking in information in your head and then like regurgitating it the same way that it came through. And I think what happens when we're on all the time and we're in that summer mode all the time, it only has time to go like through the head and out. It doesn't go below the neck. It doesn't land in your body. It doesn't land in your system. You don't get an opportunity to kind of really just allow that cauldron to kind of bubble and boil and, simmer down to create something that is uniquely yours and what you're here for. And that comes down to like your embodied truth. So this is why integration is so important. You're back. Yay. I can't hear you. There's no sound. It must be internet like issues. Oh no, you're back.
Yeah. Did you hear that?
Her little swear words, but anyone who watches anyway. Okay, now you can talk.
Okay, yes. So I'm sure all the stuff that you were saying was gold. So like, I don't know if you've mentioned this, but another part of like when you're integrating, stop consuming. Like enough with the consuming. Like you can't. I've had a beautiful client of mine got on my table, and the first thing Spirit said was like, "Your knowledge constipated. You need to stop consuming and just kind of like sit in what is in you already and let that digest." Literally, like let it digest. And what you were saying as well about not letting it like land in your body and just having it come like into the head and straight out the mouth. We see that with lots of coaches, like just lots of people online where they learn, they'll attend a weekend workshop on something, and then the following week they're teaching it. And it's like, whoa, like stop just like regurgitating what went into your brain 2 days ago and actually integrate it, sit in it, make it your own, embody it, and then share it in your way. Because people as well are people are interested in and they pay for like transformation. So and they pick the people who they resonate with and who they believe can offer them that transformation or that experience. And so if you're like regurgitating stuff that, for one, like you haven't made yours yet, so essentially you're just mimicking somebody else's language, way, explanation, like it's just inauthentic, and people can feel that and resonate with it. So I think we really have to trust the fact that we can take in all this stuff, but if we don't sit in it and stew in it and like let it swirl around in our bodies, and we've got to mentalize it to a certain extent, but really the integration and the embodiment is the key, then it's not authentic and it's not in integrity. And like you're enough as you are, and people like will love and want you. So you've got to trust that you can integrate the stuff and you can go to the down and you can sit in the rest and the quiet, and that what will come out on the other side is going to be so much richer and so much more potent and so much more authentic.
Yeah. And you can't like sell transformation either, right? All we can do is like hold space for people. But there's a lot of copy out there that really is like trying to sell these transformations. And Jester said, then you sit in it too long and you freeze. And yes, that is a really, really good point, because there is a point where you can sit in it too long and be in the down for too long and not actually move, right? And not, so we need the doing and the being equally. And I think the key around that point is that when we are in integration, the reason that people avoid it to the extent that they do is because when we sit in integration, we sit in silence and we're not consuming, we're only with ourselves, right? Like we can't numb out or separate from what is really true for us. And so we start with what is true, and our body starts to speak to us about what is true. So then we start to get things like, anxiety she's gone again. Anxiety starts showing up again, and bracing starts showing up, and our body starts speaking in these responses and shows us things and areas that actually really want attention. And that can be really uncomfortable and really quite challenging to work through. And, hang on, I think she's back. She's having some major internet issues, I think. So sitting in that place is just super uncomfortable and shows where all these wounds are. And so sometimes that's really tricky to do on our own. Okay, so this is I was actually wanted to come to this point. So this is a really great. There's a difference between having a million online trainings or a million trainings on the go and heaps and heaps and heaps of teachers and consuming information versus being in a space of integration and having someone hold space for that. And I think, and this is where Embodied Spaceholder was really born. This is where our rhythm and flow and returning that's what it's really about, is about sitting in the integration, in the being, allowing our bodies to speak to us and listening, feeling that discomfort, feeling the stuff that needs to be peeled back, and having our space held for us, being witnessed in that space. Because if we're not witnessed, we can just go into freeze. And literally freeze is a trauma response. And so the freeze is telling us that there's stuff there that wants to be witnessed, but it's too fucking scary or too hard or whatever else. There's stuff there. There's potentially like trauma. It could be ancestral. It could be past life. It could be this life. It could be, we don't actually always know. And so sometimes it takes us to be held and witnessed to start to unpack the layers that need to be moved through in order for us to be able to keep going, right? So this is the magic about integration and embodiment, is that when we sit in that, we get shown the layers that actually need to be peeled away in order for us to step into what we're here for and our truth, right? So our human has collected all of these experiences and traumas and things, but unless we give ourselves the space and time and are witnessed, like, and held really in integrity and appropriately to move through those layers, it's we do end up in freeze response, right? And so the freeze response can then lead to, I need to consume more. I need more teaching. I need more training. Because what it is it becomes a bypassing response. This is too hard. I need to bypass that and just consume more and consume and consume and consume. And it just like, it sits here and you just, Oh my God. So, and it just becomes this like regurgitated cycle of like freeze, consume, and you don't move anywhere, right? So you got to break that cycle. And it's integration and embodiment are the essence of the re-embodiment of truth. And the truth is that there's shit you got to move before you can actually, you know, teach others or hold space for others or you know, use that. So for every time Erin and I teach, going on this massive rant, but every time Erin and I teach, one of the things that we always start with is like, you are your own guru. You are your own greatest guru. We are here as guides and mentors on our own experience, but it's about you living into whatever it is that we're teaching and actually living it, not straight up, you know, teaching it or whatever, just really living into it. Yes. You disappeared, but you're yay.
Sorry, man. This takes a good time today. Yeah, so like that was such a good point that Jess made. And as you've just said, like this is where community is the vital piece. It's the key, because we can like when we go into the integration phase, like this is when the stories and the programs that we run can just hyperloop. And because we're often so in it, we just simply don't have the ability without prompts or witnessing to be able to zoom out and get the fuck over ourselves and have those patterns illuminated to us. And that's what doing this work in community does. And like, we're humans, we're interdependent, we're designed to like process and heal and integrate in community. There are certainly like moments where sometimes you just need to be with what is and be with what is alone. And then we need to come back and we need to bring it back to our people, and we need to debrief, and we need to you know, have somatic practices that we can do solo and in community. Like there's so many layers and pieces here. And it's often actually what I've found is the people who are in kind of like hyper independence, which is just a trauma response, but it's the people who are in hyper independence generally who, and this is just an observation, it's not a judgment, but they're the ones to me who generally seem to just kind of let it come in through the top, in through their mind and out through their mouth, and they miss that integration phase. And like also just accountability is so important. You know, like we need people to like call us out on our bullshit. We're human. We're fallible, infallible. I always get those two mixed up. we're not infallible. We're fallible. Like we're gonna F up. You know, we're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna miss things. Things are gonna be completely like out of our view. Like out of our we're not sometimes not even going to be able to, you know, it's like when horses have their blinkers on and there's that thing that's like just in their periphery, but because they literally, I'm scared to let go of my phone, because they're literally like have these fucking blinkers, the thing might be just there, but we just can't see it because we've got our blinkers on. And so that's, and like that might just be just like the missing little piece in the integration. And so like this, as you've said, is just where like community and support and accountability is really a key piece in the integration phase.
And going from a place of internally anchored and seeking out mentors and teachers that are also that are clearly internally anchored, that you resonate with, and not because I see people, they choose teachers that reinforce like doubt and you know, you need to do it this way, like almost self punishment. They want these teachers that like reinforce their own self-doubt, that they should only be doing it their way, or teachers that aren't living their, you know, in full integrity. And, so it's really just I was listening to someone the other day telling this story about, you know, being in your hole, and you don't want someone to just come and like give you a ladder and like give you the easy way out, and you don't want anyone to just like come and like prescribe you something to kind of numb it out. You want someone who's gonna get in the hole, someone who's been in the hole before, someone who has had their own way but isn't going to tell you their way. They're just going to kind of sit with you while you find your own way. And I think that's really the key, is having someone to witness you in that and not try and save you because it's not something to be saved from. It's something that you can't go around, you can't go over if you really desire truth. If you really desire to move into what you've got to go through it, and going through it is tricky, and it's not just one time. Like, we're cyclic beings, so we move through one phase, we expand, you know, into one skin, and then the skin gets too small and we need to kind of contract and like expand again, and we need to go through these constant and flowing, and having someone who can celebrate with us on our wins and witness us through these experiences, where they're not like a doula, you know, not telling us what to do and how to do it, just saying you're amazing and you're strong.
Yeah.
And you know, like, you can do it. Find your way, because if you don't, we just end up with these strategists, you know, coaches, strategists that are just like handing out the formulas and the methodologies that don't fucking fit you, and just like bypass your truth, like your truth. The world needs your truth. If everybody looks and says the same thing, it's going to be boring and it's not going to fit everybody. The world needs your unique truth. And I think it's so easy because of how glorified training is, especially like, you can be a certified life coach for $7. You can be a doula for, you know, $28, like whatever. And you can just like be consuming, because what we should do. But you go and hold space in these sacred moments. I don't want someone who's like so buzzing from too much information that they aren't in their body and they aren't able to actually witness me in my moment, because they're too like buzzing from all the constipation in their head. Like, we need to really treat our privileged position as space holders with such sacredness. And if we're going to step into people's vulnerable spaces, whether it's circles or birth or death or, you know, whatever, coaching, whatever it might be, it's our obligation, it's within our integrity, it's negligent not to prioritize integration and our nervous systems. And that begins with embodying and practicing cyclic living, not like hearing it and teaching it, literally like every day, really, what is it my body needs, and not consuming sometimes.
Yeah, just everything you said, like it's a duty of care.
Right. Yeah, such a duty of care. And so at this time, as we're moving, you know, more into autumn, well, we are in the southern hemisphere anyway, and celebrating Mabon and the harvest. So the harvest seasons are important as well, because we can get really caught up in what I can do better, but it's also about celebrating, like, what am I harvesting and what am I grateful for? You know, what lessons have I learned, and how reflecting on, you know, the past cycle. That's the beauty of this cyclic living. We can look back to the last cycle and go, wow, look at how far I've come. And yes, maybe there are things that I would do differently or things that I've learned, but also celebrating and harvesting the magic that we've, you know, moved through, because it's about really being grateful every single day, rather than like, I need more and more and more. How can I be still in this?
Yeah, totally.
Does anyone have any questions about that? I feel like we've covered a lot of things. Yes, I really resonate with this. I think it's a common thing because it just is so glorified to consume and to separate ourselves from nature, separate ourselves from our menstrual cycle, separate ourselves from grief, separate ourselves from death, separate ourselves from all of it, and not just sit in our truth. And how we get to our truth is through marinating, and I like to say digesting. Like, it's a digestion. And if you're not allowing it, you know what it's like when you eat a big meal and then you just keep consuming, like, you're gonna feel sick and you're not gonna digest. So integration, in essence, really is giving yourself time and space to digest whatever it is you've consumed, whether that's summer energy or whatever, or trainings. Give yourself time to live into that, like, fully, before going to the next and seeing what comes of that. And often it comes from a place of self-doubt or lack of confidence because you're not being kept accountable by a community that's like lift up to just do the thing, where you've digested it. Stop sitting in that. Do the thing. You don't need to consume more. You were going to say.
Yes. So that's what I was going to say. I think my battery's going to die in a second. So if it does, I apologize. And I apologize for all the bullshit tech that's happened on this call so far. But so, like, a real theme with people who hop on my table or people who I see virtually is that, like, inability to slow down and to just sit and be. And then there's also a theme with the flip side of that, and that's the point that Jess brought up, is that, like, there's people who are still hiding, like, who literally, like, have so much magic to share with the world, and their medicine is so deeply needed, and they're still, like second guessing themselves and hiding in the shadows. And so it's like, you really do have to kind of, like, find that balance. And again, at Equinox, it's equal parts day and night. It's all about the balance, and it's about looking, and, like, it's a potent opportunity to look and see and analyze, like, every aspect of your life and see what's humming along and where you've got a pretty good balance, and then taking a look and seeing what's, like, just really out of balance. And often that's that, like, we all just need more sleep. And if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, especially at this time of year, like, if you're feeling tired, good. That's your animal body showing you that, like, you're in alignment. So really listen to that and slow down. And we've talked about, like, the different cycles. And I just wanted to say as well, that our menstrual cycle, so where you're at on your menstrual cycle, is generally going to be dominant for you. So that's the dominant cycle for you to follow. And then beyond that, we're all deeply affected by whatever phase the moon is in. And then, like, deeply affected seasonally as well, and, like, daylight savings is going to end for us, I think, at the end of this month. And so that's going to be another recalibration, because that's not a particularly natural thing for us to navigate. So yeah, there's just lots to kind of, like, tap into and think about, and so many beautiful, like, offerings of prompts. Yeah, it's all just, like, it's there are just so many gifts if we stop and open our eyes, like, to the world around us. If we, like, zoom out and look at nature and connect with nature and understand that we literally are nature, made up of the exact same elemental beginnings. And it's time that we really kind of reconnected in with that. And I just like to come back to and remember as well, like, tech is so amazing, and like, as organic organisms, we, like, pulse with this, like, undulation, and tech is like so we've really got to have downtime away from the tech to recalibrate and to get back in touch with our, like, with the pulse of our organism.
Yeah. Boundaries around that, right? Like, put your phone on do not disturb for a while. Like, do have boundaries that actually allow for that, which is difficult, and it's our responsibility. And this is what we always come back to, is like personal responsibility, to come back to that place of integrity and authenticity, and boundaries. Something that you said that I was going to talk on, but someone just said, get caught up in so much knowledge and integration, but often don't actualize it with clients to its full potential. Often the teacher does talking in circles, but no time for other participants to share. And I think so that's where it also comes back to like really choosing spaces, or listening to your body when maybe spaces don't suit. I think the self-doubt is such a big one for a lot of people, and tech does allow us community, but we are innately interconnected beings. Like, we need spaces where we can just be heard and witnessed. So finding spaces where you do feel like you get time to share, where you do feel witnessed, where you are, where you're not just told what you want to hear. Because I think that's the other thing, like a lot of people choose spaces where they get told what they want to hear. We want to have spaces where people are actually going to call us out, or at least not in a nasty way, but just really ask questions, you know, be the devil's advocate and ask the questions. Like, how do you actually really feel about that? And is that really in alignment with your values? Is that really helping you? Is that really supporting you?
Totally. And that, like, that's big work. And, you know, we call each other out all the time, but we do it in a way where we like give invitations and prompts for deeper, further reflection. So we would never say to each other, like in our group of friends, or like, what the hell are you doing? That's crazy. But we ask hard, uncomfortable questions. And it's because I think we've done a lot of work on our default patternings of, like, you know, if somebody had have asked me that question a decade ago, I would have spiraled into victim and like, how dare they ask that question of me, and they have no idea what I've gone through and how hard my life is. Or I would have like switched to like persecutor, you know, and like, they're assholes and they've got no idea and who do they think they are? Or, you know, like, we would have tried to rescue each other. Whereas because we've done a lot of work on that, we can like kind of, like, our ego is always going to be there, but we have gotten to a point where we can remove a certain amount, enough ego, that we can receive those questions, and instead of defaulting into like an unhealthy pattern of defense or victim or whatever, we can be like, right, okay. And we can appreciate that the person who's giving us this reflective question is not in it. We are in it. And when you're in it, the fog can be really fucking thick.
Yeah.
So it's really important that we have these spaces, circles, communities where we can all show up in radical responsibility, like rising in maturity, being the adults and having the hard, uncomfortable conversations that actually were never modeled to us as children, because we are doing, like, we're all working on our emotional literacy, and we're all like doing a shit ton of reprogramming of toxic, like ancestral patterns that have just been going on for hundreds of years.
Yes. Oh, so much there. And we can just, so default to this like victim and like, how dare you? And we see it all the time, people just attacking each other. But coming back into sacred spaces where we feel held and where we can come back to, actually, it's your responsibility to go with the cycles of where you're at and what's actually happening for you. And the other thing about integration is not a quick process. It's not something that someone can just sell you. You can't just buy a transformation and be like, I'm going to do this 6-month program and I'm going to, you know, fix my life. Like, sometimes you will, and sometimes you actually need longer. And sometimes you peel away certain layers that you didn't expect to peel away. And the thing is, the truth is not always what we expect. It's not always what we think it's going to be, and it's not always what we prefer. But the more you sit there and work on it, and the more someone or a group of people witness that, the more you start to peel away the layers that are false, that they're not truth for you. That you actually see what is truth, and you embody what is truth, and you come to that place of, actually, this is really me. And someone asked me about embodied space holder. So in my last embodied space holder program, I had people, it's very difficult to kind of explain, you know, outcomes. I don't give outcomes because people come to me, they want to expand in their business, but they come to truth, right? Like, some people didn't continue in their business because they realized that there was all this other stuff and they wanted to do something else. And the core were more about nervous system and other programmings and patterns that they need to work on. And then I had other people that really expanded in their business in a whole lot of different ways. And so truth is really very variable, and you're not going to get that from methodology. You're only going to get that from this cyclic journey and being held through it, right? Being held through your unique personal journey. So embodied space holder. So Erin and I have rhythm and flow, which is being reborn as returning, and that's like the foundation of everything that we talk about, which is all of this, like the seasons, cycles, and really embodying cyclic living, menstrual cycles, seasons, life cycles, rites of passage, ceremonies.
And definitely, we definitely in returning go through our we give you tools to be able to become aware and to kind of dissect your own patternings and your default programs, for sure.
And we have our in-person closed circles where we also, the thing is about integration is you can't do it once and then be done, right? Like, embodiment is about coming back to these same things, just like our cyclic living, and going over it and seeing it from a new light. Because every time you come back to it, you're a new person and you are going to see it from a different light. Every time you go over your birth stories, every time you go over the right passage, you're going to peel away another layer. Because every time you peel away one layer and you kind of, you know, shed your skin and like get reborn in this new skin, you come back and you learn something else. So we always go over the foundations, and then in space holder and my circle medicine training are online. So they're online, and it's a mentorship program. Embodied space holder is going to be starting in June. I've got a wait list in my bio. It's for people that are already space holders. So it's an advanced program for people that are already space holders that want to actually really integrate and embody. It's not a training, it's integration and embodiment and coming back into the body and being held through that. It's everything that we feel so passionate about. But if you're not a space holder, I also have the circle medicine training, which is all about learning how to space hold from this place of integrity and embodiment. And then the mentorship is for those who already hold space, but it does include all the training as well. And they're all online. So we've got some, I've got some wait lists in my pre-registrations in my bio. If you're interested, I'm going to be running Circle Medicine live this year, which is going to be really beautiful because I just love live. She's gone. I really, really love live containers where we can actually digest together each week and like come back and see where everybody's at. And returning is live, which is currently Rhythm and Flow, but it's rebirthing into returning. And Embody Space Holder is also online. Did I say online? Yeah, they're all online. The only thing live is the closed circles. and the retreat. So the retreat is going to be amazing. Such an embodied experience. That's happening on the 1st and 2nd of April in South Australia in Aldinga. And it's just going to be such a great in-person embodied experience. But if you can't make it, there's one place left. If anyone is feeling that, there's one place left. If you can't make that, there's plenty of opportunities to connect online. Erin and I both also run online. It's hard, you know, I do kinesiology and alchemy, and Erin's doing these essence healing Reiki sessions as well. So you can also access one-on-one with us in that way. I hope you all have a beautiful autumn equinox, Mabon, new moon, beginning of the astrological new year. I'm going to put this replay onto my YouTube. It'll also be on my feed if you want to watch it from the beginning. We went into all kinds of great little divergence of discussions. Maybe send me a PM and then we can have a conversation. Let's have a chat in my DMs. And we can have a chat, because I'm gonna get a countdown. We only get an hour. I'm gonna get a countdown. It's gonna shut me off, and Erin's already gone. So I hope you all have a beautiful day, and we'll see you in a fortnight. We'll be back in a fortnight for more Monday musings. Let me know in the comments once it's posted or in my DMs if anything landed for you, or if you have any questions. I'm available in my DMs. Okay, have a beautiful day. Bye.